what I've tried to do with my lecture is to try and illustrate where ideas come from, that ideas aren't kind of single-sourced. They're things that they nurture and they mature and you kind of develop them over a period of time. And I'm using as an illustration the way in which Chariots of Fire came about over a great number of years, was kind of the natural conclusion of a whole series of ideas. And then I'm jumping to a film I'm working on at the moment, which will be a film I hope to make within the next 12 months, and showing where that came from and how that in turn also is a sort of natural conclusion of a whole series of thoughts and ideas, although quite different. So one's looking back at a film that did, I did make, did work, did have a result, to a film that I'm currently working on, which I hope, God knows, might have a similar success story attached to it.
The University of Sunderland's got a long history in producing successful film and media students. You can look at the recent success at the RTS Awards, for example. Why do you think it's important that the university remains strong in this area?
Because we live in an era of communication where jobs are getting more plentiful. More importantly, the kind of job that people want. These are not Mac jobs, they're not jobs that people kind of get levered into, they're jobs that people actively seek. And I think it's very, very important that the voice of a region, particularly this region, makes itself heard on a national stage. And that's only going to happen if good media students emerge from this part of the world and retain their roots and insist that this is a legitimate voice in the national debate.
Do you think there's a role for events and activities to help build awareness of film and media and involve new audiences? I'm thinking particularly of the bid that Sunderland's preparing for the City of Culture 2021.
I think the whole process of getting people in from different walks of life to lecture, for want of a better word, they're not really lectures, they're talks, they're discussions, with as wide an audience as possible within the region, it can only be a good thing. I'd love to attract an audience, if only to talk about why the In campaign is vital for as I see it, for the future of the North East in the European debate. And what's obvious is that you need people who can articulate that debate and know how to get it across.
And what do you think of the facilities for film and media students at the University of Sunderland, including the film and radio studios?
Well, I'd like to think I had some role to play in creating the facilities, so I'm obviously I'm an awed beneficiary. And as I said, I think it was an argument I made for many, many years, and I'm thrilled actually to see that the way it's been carried out.
Since your time as Chancellor, you've maintained a strong connection with the university. Can you tell me why that is and what keeps drawing you back here?
I think that it wasn't just the university. I did have a very happy time here, and I watched, from my perspective, a serious success story emerge from a pretty fragile beginning. But I also think I became very, very fond of and began to identify with the region itself. And I like it here. I like the people here. I like the attitude here. I like the strength of the people from this part of the world. I'm a Londoner. I come from a kind of world that's possibly overprivileged, that doesn't ask itself many of the essential questions that a society that's going to be cohesive needs to ask itself. So I come up here and it's like a reality check. I'm very lucky. I live in West Cork. I live in a rural community. So in a sense, I have the best of all worlds. I can plug into this community and get a strong dose of reality. I live in my own rural community and that's charming and delightful. And I work in Westminster and deal with the madness of that as well.
And finally, your talk tonight will cover your upcoming film Arctic 30, or you'll talk about it tonight. Why was this an issue that you wanted to look at?
I've been involved in the environmental movement since about 1980 in one form or another. So it's an issue that's remained with me. I was very fortunate in 2007, 2008. I was the chairman of the committee that took through both houses of Parliament the scrutiny on what became the world's first climate change bill. So I'm very proud of that. I then spent the last 8 years defending that bill and the carbon limits that we created. And my wife quite rightly pointed out that it's one thing and another to witter on in Parliament about things. Why don't you actually go and do something about it? You are a reasonably skilled filmmaker. That's what you do. If you feel as strongly as you do, and I do, about the subject of climate change, go and make a movie. And the opportunity arose through a book being written about a series of events by a guy I knew who approached me, and slightly to my surprise, to be honest, I said, yeah, I'll give it a go.
Do you have any advice for some of the budding filmmakers that might be in the audience tonight?
I think my advice to any film student is to find a piece of subject matter that you feel so passionately about that to an extent you won't allow your film not to be made. Now, will it be made as a $40 million epic? Maybe not. Will it be made as a $5 million movie? Possibly. Will it be made as a film that you make with your friends at the weekends and ends up on YouTube? Very, very likely. But the most important thing is you've got a story that you feel you need to tell, that if you can tell it and tell it well, it will change the world. That's what you have to believe. Because if you don't believe it, no one else will.
Well put then. Thank you very much.
Thank you.